So let's do The Guest, which is the new film by Adam Wingard and written by Simon Barrett. They're the team who brought us You're Next. Stars Dan Stevens, probably best known to many as that nice bloke from Downton Abbey. So the story is he turns up at a family's home. He's a military veteran with special ops skills. He turns up saying, "I knew your son. I was in the call with your son, and I made him a promise when I was there that." After I had finished, after I'd been demobbed, I would come and look you all up and make sure that you were all looked after. Initially, the family is suspicious, but very soon they decide that actually he's a good thing. Here's a clip.
What about you? What are your plans?
Figured I'd get on a bus tomorrow, head down to Florida or something, start looking for work. I've done construction work before, so I'm sure I'll find something.
No. That's crazy. That's crazy. You don't know where you're going. Stay here for a couple more days.
No, like that. I couldn't impose on your hospitality any longer, sir.
You're not impose on our... And sir? You're calling me sir now? You gotta stop with the sir. My name's Spencer. You gotta call me Spencer, for God's sakes. Okay. Okay. So you're sticking around, right? You stick around at least till you know where you're going.
Well, maybe just a couple more days, all right?
Cool. Excellent. It's a deal. Let's have a couple more of these to celebrate. And then I gotta get off to bed. God, you can put your liquor away.
I guess so.
Tired? Are you tired?
No, I don't need much sleep.
Blimey. So you can tell from that kind of synthy score the whole thing has a retro feel to it, and there's the director himself says that it's partly inspired by that idea of an idealized synthy John Carpenter landscape in which it's Halloween every day and there are sort of trappings of the occult all around. The film sort of is absolutely full of nods and references to the films which the writer and the director like, and it's not, as they rightly say, it's not strictly a horror film, although it is kind of inflected with horror films. In fact, it sort of moves towards a third act, which is kind of in a kind of fun house setting. Of course, what happens is, when we first see Dan Stevens, he turns up with this kind of 100-watt smile and this kind of great, and immediately he looks as creepy as anything. And he says, I'm here to look after you, and you don't trust him for a minute, but of course the family do start to trust him, and then very quickly you think that maybe there are reasons to not trust him, not least of which is the fact that people around the town start dying, and at some point the teenage daughter starts to figure out that maybe he's not everything that he was cracked up to be. The interesting thing about the film, when I saw it in a screening room with people who descended into hoots of laughter in the second half, or the third act of the film, and I was wondering how appropriate or inappropriate that was. The thing is, the film has a pastiche feel. The film is a sort of it's riffing on a load of genre ideas that we all know very well, and it's aware of its own ridiculousness. We are not laughing at it; we are laughing with it. I mean, the whole thing is played borderline camp. It's much more mainstream than something like You're Next, which in a way was too nasty to ever do really well with the sort of the standard multiplex audience. This is much more a sort of mainstream thriller, and it does throw back to those sort of 1980s thrillers that the filmmakers are so in love with. Dan Stevens does a very good job of being, on the one hand, fantastically charismatic, on the other hand, completely creepy. And it does become completely ludicrous. I mean, as I said, ludicrous to the point that in the screening room that I was in, people were distractingly laughing. And I think that...
Can you explain, would it give too much away to explain why they were laughing?
Because it does things that are just so outrageous, that are so... It has its tongue so firmly in its cheek that it's kind of it's asking you to. What it wants to be is a sort of rip-roaring roller coaster ride. I mean, the thing is, it is quite shambolic. It does sort of flit around all over the place, and there are whole sort of things that don't quite tie up about it. But it has a great pace to it, and it is good fun. It is ridiculous. I mean, but I think it is knowingly ridiculous. The question that everyone will have is, does it know when it's being as ridiculous as it is? I think it does. I don't think that the filmmakers are. I think they're smart enough that they know exactly what they're doing. And I enjoyed it. I don't think, for me, it's not as good as You're Next, which was a much sort of tougher genre film and much more, although it was inflected by past horror films, it was much more sort of straight-laced and much more just sort of mean and lean and nasty. This is playing much more to a kind of, a sort of Fright Night audience. But it's good fun. And Dan Stevens does have a lot of fun with the role.